Hello, thank you very much for coming to this talk. Please have low expectations of this talk because it's mostly going to come from yourselves, the knowledge that you'll take away from here. In the next 45 minutes, we'll be doing a workshop on how we can improve our consulting using large language models. Things like ChatGPT, Bard, Copilot, and other tools. I include kind of graphics tools like things that generate pictures. And our goal is to figure out how can we get these tools to do something useful in our consulting and understand what do we need to be mindful of when we're using these tools. My name is Lyndsay Prewer. I work as delivery lead at Experts, and I've been playing with ChatGPT for the last couple of months. Quick straw poll, put your hand up if you've used an LLM like ChatGPT or Copilot as part of your work or related to IT some way.
Or play around with?
Play around's fine, yes. So you have some experience. Okay. If you all sat in a group of people that haven't used it before, then you're going to need to move around a bit for this to work. We'll go through a bit of context and then we'll get into the workshop itself. On Monday, we had some employee workshops happening here, and one of them was led by the excellent Simon Case, where he took us through a lot more detail about what are LLMs, how do they work, and how can they be used. It was a fascinating session that covered a lot of the science and the tech behind large language models, and people that are fairly ignorant like me were really informed. During that session, about half of it was taken up by a panel Q&A, and we had some real kind of significant experts on LLMs on that panel, people like Brian Cunningham, Torben, Peter Petrovich, and Simon Case himself. So people that are using LLMs, really understanding them. Somehow I ended up on the panel as well, I think mainly because I'm doing this workshop and got mistaken for someone that knows something about LLMs. So I thought I would cover my tracks with a genius idea of representing ChatGPT on the panel, but doing this in secret. So the rest of the panel consented to this, and we agreed that we would take questions. I'd normally go last, and that would give me time to type in the question that someone was asking, probably paraphrase it, and then see what ChatGPT came up with, maybe get it to refine it, and then just repeat it, kind of parrot fashion, picking out the best bits. And it worked very well. I don't know if anyone guessed that's what I was doing. We did make it clear at the very end that's what I was doing. And this question that came up by Tommy from the States was a really good question I knew nothing about. I couldn't answer this question, had no idea what he was talking about. So I put in ChatGPT, and it came up with this really excellent answer that I think most people were convinced by, and fortunately, I think is correct, I hope. So it's a good example of how we can use these tools in surprising ways. I was then doing some further reading last night in preparation for this talk, and came up with an article by another very large consultancy, talking about the impact that tools such as ChatGPT might have. And two things struck me from this article. One was about how it can reduce the time it takes to develop applications, maybe increase the time it takes to debug and fix them, but that's another topic. Secondly, how it's going to bring real powerful capabilities to people like me that don't know much about LLMs and allow us to fake it quite well. I think the main takeaway from this article and lots of other articles I've been reading over the last few months and conversations that have been happening around the internet and around EE is that these things are going to have an impact, and it's likely to be a very, very big impact. We can't tell exactly what that impact is or how many different ways they're going to change society and change the way we live and they work. I worry that they could have a more significant impact than social media does, and that we might need to start thinking about health warnings associated with some of these tools. But they're here, people are using them, people are talking about them, and most significantly, our clients are asking about them and our competitors are using them. So this means I think it's time for us as equal experts to do some of our own thinking. We need to start coming up with some responses ourselves to have a position on LLMs. And to do that, I think there's 4 steps that we need to be taking. Firstly, we need to get some information. We need to be informed about what LLMs are, how we can use them, what the risks are, how we should be using them in a considered way. so that when we're using them internally ourselves or when we're advising our clients or using them in different engagements, we're doing so responsibly. As we're becoming more informed about LLMs, so I think it's really important that we need to be able to distinguish facts and opinions and experience. We should really be trying to prefer getting experience from people, and preferably our own experience, our own first-hand experience of them, rather than just relying on different opinions or things we've read that may be made up by ChatGPT itself. Thirdly, and this probably should have been at the top, we need to understand the risks. There are some significant risks with using LLMs. We don't fully understand all of the risks because it's such a new area and we haven't seen the widespread usage of them yet. Much like we didn't really understand probably the risks of social media. My wife works in mental health and she's a very busy lady now thanks to certain social media platforms. Then finally, I think it's really important that through our network and through our different engagements, we share the knowledge we're acquiring so that we can all be informed, we can all benefit from what we're learning. This thinking led to the idea of this session. So let's move on to the key part of the workshop. Before I do that though, you may have come here thinking, I'm going to learn so much about LLMs, it's going to be really useful. I've got all these questions and I'm going to get them all answered. I'm very sorry to disappoint you. You'll probably learn something about LLMs from people around you, I'm hoping. But if you really want a great quick start to using LLMs, some background of what they are, I highly recommend this website. You'll see QR codes throughout this presentation. They'll be next to anything that's effectively a hyperlink, and I will share the slides afterwards. So head to there later if you want to go into more detail about what LLMs are and how to use them. Okay, on to the workshop, so the bit where you'll be doing the work and I'll just be watching my timer. So the goal of the workshop is for us to come together and collect our advice and summarize our advice on how we can use these tools to improve the way we consult. I'd like us to focus on two aspects of using these tools. Firstly, I'd like us to share what we understand as being the risks that we need to be mindful of. What things should we always be considering whenever we're using an LLM or whenever we're thinking about using an LLM? So that we're going into that situation with a risk management plan and we can advise our clients appropriately. Then secondly, there's lots of different ways people are using LLMs. Some work very well, others are kind of very hit and miss and may not be that useful. And I'd like to hear what are people's experience of things that work well. And that's why I've kind of gathered you all together to try and share, what ways are you finding LLMs work for you and help you be more effective as a consultant. If you have come here with a list of burning questions about what the hell LLMs are, and it doesn't cover, those questions aren't covered by these two categories, then please later on head to the Slack channel and post your questions there. There's a whole host of people that are somewhat experienced with LLMs that are answering questions and sharing information in that channel. The way we're going to do this is we're going to use the liberating structure, where we're going to start off writing information just on the post-it notes. You'll need access to a pen and the post-it notes. And we're looking for people to write up to 5 post-it notes. It's fine if you write no post-it notes, because you may have come here not knowing anything but curious, and that's great. So please stay, and there'll be stuff you can join and participate in as the groups combine. So when you write your up to 5 post-it notes, some of them can be risks, so write them on an orange post-it note, and some of them can be applications of LLMs. They can be on the green post-it note. So I'm looking for up to 5 post-it notes. It could all be 5 risks, or could always be 5 applications, but no more than 5, please. Okay. So do that quietly. You can start doing that now if you want. After that, once the kind of 3-minute timer up, which will start in a minute, then we're going to just wait a minute. Then you'll combine into pairs or triplets. We'll find pens in a minute. Just let me finish explaining the instructions. So then we'll combine into pairs and triplets, and you'll need to condense your sets of 5 into a single set of your top 5. And you'll have about 7 minutes to do that. Then after that timer goes, we'll do the same again. So you'll need to find another pair or triplet near you, combine, condense, top 5, and so on. What we're looking for is to have about 4 or 5 groups combine at the end, and those 4 or 5 groups have their top 5 that they can share back to the room and pop on this Miro board. So one person, stay by your post-it notes, everyone else can sit down. And who wants to go first? So we're just going to summarise. So I will be summarising these into the channel, but perhaps as the mic's at the back of the room, should we start with Kevin? You ready, Kevin Stone? Or is it Mike here? Oh, Mike here. Okay, great. Yeah, we'll do this end. So, Sarah, do you want to go first? Okay, listen up, folks.
On a positive note, we have, it's really, let me start with negative. That way we end with positive. One of the risks that all of us identified was just data breach and privacy, whether that's PII or any kind of other data breach. The risk is pretty high. The risk of bias, because it's a model from training, so it really depends on how you train it. You can inject bias into it and fake news. So sometimes it comes like with BS facts that you have to go back and actually read through. And we know some of us don't do it. The other one, on a positive note, it's really great for summarizing or getting started on some ideas. For example, just say, I want to write a blog or write a research paper on this. This is my idea. This is my experience. Where do I get started? It generally does a great job on saying, here's like a few other things. Take a look at this. Make sure you have examples on this. And it's a pretty good starting point.
Great. Thanks, Sarah. Okay, do you want to pass the mic to maybe Pete this way?
I can probably just use your...
Okay, you want to use this one, Pete? And do you want to take the mic to the back of the room whilst we're waiting? Thanks.
Yeah, so we had... So one of the positives we had was we ended up distilling it down from learning and from kind of getting started with blog posts to just a sort of general productivity, because that then included like expanding bullet points and also condensing large aspects of text. Then as a negative we had it would confidently display inaccurate information. So again, that can be sort of like, it's sort of the social media effect, isn't it? It can create an echo chamber, and it can be quite racist and all the rest of it if it's not trained properly. We had potentially, you can use it to identify test areas and methods. I didn't write that one, that was Lim. That's not surprising, is it?
It's not so much about the couple of test ideas, but the thing is that you can use it in a multimodal fashion. Feed it design diagrams, give some code, maybe some schemas, and it can help you work a lot of this stuff out. Tell me about performance testing, resilience, and authorship. Right?
Yeah. It's great for quick templated AWS, like something like does it say AWS report? You can kind of template something up quickly. And then the sort of, on a negative, it was to do with, you need data to train it with, right? And if people are constantly consulting models instead of doing their own original research, you're going to get stuck in the year 2021 because no one's ever going to do any new research. So how does that work, basically?
Great, thank you, Pete. Okay, which group wants to go next? There's a group near the back of the room. Maybe Kevin, do you want to go next?
So just to take you through our risks, the first risk was for our jobs. We're going to be out of a job. The second one was around kind of security and feeding private or unintentionally feeding private data, PII data, security data into the public domain. We had the one about very confidently displaying or producing nonsense, and not necessarily as individuals having the knowledge to be able to go, well, I know that's wrong, if we don't know it's wrong. Lacking of comprehension and of the context of the particular environment or situation that we're trying to resolve. So real world knowledge and lack of was a risk. And then, and from a consultancy, so I guess an E perspective, being left behind by other consultancies who are doing it better than we are was a risk. From a positive perspective, we had loads about learning, so quick start learning, asking it code, for code samples that we don't particularly know the language, summarizing large data, basically a topic here around learning and encouraging learning culture within our clients. Accelerating discovery and exception and business analysis is a potential opportunity or use case. accelerating bid writing is an opportunity or use case, improving internal workflows, and then the last one is about chat.ee, which Matt could possibly give us a bit more context.
Can we do that later, though? I want one more group to go next. So which one more group? Who wants to be the last group to give their top? Okay, Ashish.
The first thing, the risk which we come up was the answers and everything can become homogenized. That if you interview 50 people and they have prepared the interview from ChatGPT, you'll get best 3 answers. As it is, it's difficult to judge who is good and who's not, and it will be even more difficult. And then humans will become lazier and dumber because they are not thinking creatively. Sorry? As Pete mentioned, we'll be stuck in 2021 forever. Then obviously the confidentiality and all the PIA data risk. The responses could be biased, and they can have all kind of implications, social, political, everything. And there are good things as well. One of the things which came up was to summarize the information. We can use the transcript of the whole meeting to come up with the meeting notes. And it can be a good starting point to learn a new skill. That's a good one. And ChatGPT will come up with the facts. So it is for us to judge based on those facts. It is not, most of the time, hope so, it is not coming up with judgment. And good for creative space, media, advertisement. You don't have to rely on those money-making agencies to create those AdWords. You can create on your own. And it's good for mimicking the styles from whatever you want to.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. And thanks. Sorry if we can't get around to one more group, but that was going to be what we've got time for. I'll go around and take photos of what you got, or if you can let me have your post-it notes, then I can put them in the channel. Lots of people contributed to this workshop. Thank you especially to Erin and Pete for the genesis of this workshop. Also to Stuart Reeve for reviewing the slides, James Pearce for the liberating structures. Anyone I've spoken to in the last few weeks and I've asked, do you use ChatGPT and other things? Then you've helped form this workshop, so many thanks to lots of people. A quick plug, tonight at our conference, we're going to have a speaker called Nina Schick, who talks about generative AI. That includes ChatGPT. I'm really looking forward to hearing what she's got to say, so please go along to that. Great, thank you very much for your time.